Well, welcome back to another episode of Winning Through Culture. I'm here with Tim, my lovely co-host, and today we are going to have a conversation to articulate some of the topics and points that we've been discussing over this last quarter and really do a little foreshadowing to a future mini-series that's currently in the works. So, Tim, excited for the dialogue.
Thank you, Amanda. Always good to be with you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today. Know that our focus over the last couple months has been one of intentional development of a culture.
Yep.
Not only sharing some of the things that we've learned, but also hearing from some people that have built businesses with a intentional focus on culture and how they have navigated some of the challenges that come with that intentional focus of culture. So the last couple months have been illustrative, at least in my mind, that it's important to not only define the type of culture you want to have, but to ultimately make sure you are intentional about how you get there.
Absolutely. And a couple of the points that I took away from the string of episodes that we've had most recently is the fact that you really have to show up every day as an intentional leader in your culture, because you never know from an employee engagement perspective or a retention of a client standpoint or what have you, the experience that they're having with your culture is indicative of you as a leader, as you have defined what you want that culture to look like. And so the dialogues, not only that you and I have been having, one specifically around, purpose and passion, and then talking about how you measure culture in an organization, all the way down to the recent speakers or guest speakers that we've had. The thematic theme, as you were discussing, is really that intentional focus, whether it's on a certain aspect of your culture as a whole, really showing up every day, digging into it. Sometimes it's rainbows and hugs, and sometimes it's kind of you're going through, what is that thing in Spartan when it's like the mud pit? What is it called?
Rolling mud pits.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's like that.
There's a lot of obstacles in the Spartan race that I could make an analogy to that are on the more not so fun side, but yeah. Rolling mud pits. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So rolling mud pits of Spartan. And sometimes it gets a little messy, I guess is my point. So really understanding and being present for both the good and the maybe not as pleasurable.
Well, I mean, the thing that, again, reflecting on the last few episodes we did and the guests we had that I appreciated, we made a concerted effort to talk about culture, not just from this rosy, easy, simple thing, but if you're going to be intentional about it, it's going to require some work. As anything in life, you're going to have some highs and some lows, some advances and setbacks. But in speaking to our most recent guests, what I really appreciated was the authenticity they had. And again, leaning into what they are good at relative to creating the culture of the organizations they desired, and then enrolling the rest of the people in the organization in that process. Because culture is a collection of norms and behaviors and how people show up. It's not just a singular thing that somebody declares, hey, this is how it is here. Follow this instruction.
Put it on the wall and set it and forget it.
Yeah, paste it on the wall and say, that's who we are. Yeah.
Very true. So as we've been talking a little bit about the reflection of the last few episodes that we have done over this last quarter, we said the main theme that has really stuck out is that intentionality. So when we think about business owners, entrepreneurs that are starting their brand, maybe in the middle of their brand, all of that needs to encapsulate the culture of the organization. And I think we have a very unique position to showcase and share a little bit of our experience around how the brand comes to life. Winning Through Culture is its own brand his own brand. But we also refer, and we talked a lot about in previous episodes, our day-to-day careers, our day-to-day responsibilities are grounded in our firm. And so we talk a little bit about the fact that all of the context for how we have come to build the culture that we have, of course, is rooted in the firm that we work in every day. And there definitely is a bridge between the culture that we have created and the brand that we put out into the world. And there is a symbiotic relationship that has to happen there. And I think we have an opportunity to dig into a little bit deeper about how those two things come together in future episodes and really talk about the experience that we've gone through to help others as they work to build that intentionality in their culture and then wrap it in the brand that they're putting out for their clientele.
Yeah. I mean, everything starts with a vision. So, what is the vision of what it is you want your business to be? What do you want that business to be to other people? There's a purpose to that business. Who are you serving? How are you serving them? How are you creating value? There's a mission, which in many respects is just, I'm not referring to a mission statement as much as a focus of this is the mission of the business. And the purpose could be overarching. The mission could be more specific to the here and now. And then there's the how do you do that? And all of that ultimately has to be brought together in order to inform culture. Because again, it's a word, as we've talked about in previous episodes. What does it mean? It's really the collective norms, behaviors, and experiences that people have working together or being a part of a community or a team. And so much of winning through culture has been informed, to your point, by our day-to-day experiences of running a business and actually applying what we talk about in these episodes to a real-life business with real-life employees and real-life challenges. And so I am excited as we venture forth here over the next couple months to share the story of how the Pelora Group came to be and how we were able to create alignment between the culture of the organization that we are tending to every day and attempting to create and grow and foster and improve upon. And then how do you, as a business owner, align that with your brand?
Yes. Because you have a brand.
Everybody has a brand, whether you've
intentionally created it or not.
And everybody has a culture.
Exactly. Whether you've intentionally created it or not. And I think now having the opportunity to pull from our own daily experiences with going through a rebrand opportunity and helping those that are listening come to a place, whether you have been intentional about your brand and you're looking to either enhance that or potentially rebrand to better encapsulate and tell your story, or if you are working as part of a larger organization and there are some tactical implementation items I think that we could share that would help promote and push and propel the brand story forward. So I think there's something in it for everyone, no matter where you are in that brand story, just like we have curated episodes on winning through culture about where you are in your culture dialogue.
Yeah. And I think some businesses have a brand and they're very comfortable with it. And then it's just a matter of how do you align your culture with your brand?
Yep.
I know for us, we focused on the culture and then realized the brand that we had did not accurately reflect the culture that we had created and were pouring ourselves into, still are every day. So to your point, Amanda, I think if you have a brand, how do you get that aligned with the culture? Mm-hmm. If you are unsettled on what your brand is and it's time to rebrand.
Unsettled is a good word.
That's what we were. Unsettled, the brand we had, what we had put out there was not reflective of who we were and what we meant to the people we serve. So then we'll take people through the journey we went through to both come to that decision to make that change and then to go through the steps of how we not only made the change, because again, I would say the thing that's unique about what we underwent, and I think most people attempt to do this when you rebrand, is it reflective of who you are? We just have had the good fortune of focusing on the who we are first.
Yep.
And then that helped make that process of rebranding all that much smoother, but it still had its opportunities.
As every work product does, right?
Yes. And some good stories.
Yeah, and some good stories along the way. I think it's interesting to talk about like the nature of the work too. So we have recently, you've heard us talk about on this podcast, the tools that we utilize in our day-to-day business that help us as we facilitate running the business, but also building that intentional culture and helping us remain relevant and be impactful, not only for our employees, but the individuals who affiliate with us in any capacity. And we've had the great fortune of being introduced to Working Genius recently. And that is something that I think has at least has opened my eyes. And I know we've discussed, different ways that you can utilize Colby and Disc and all of the things on this podcast. We've had lots of episodes where we've talked about tools that we are utilizing. But Working Genius really breaks down any work product into 6 areas. And so I think the rebrand process as a work product really showcase the need for the skill sets and the competencies and the working geniuses of any team as you come together. And that is a reflection of how we have intentionally built the culture to invite people into dialogue and live in the space in their work product that brings them joy and energy and allows them to flex into their competencies, but also allows them to avoid any frustrations because they're at least acknowledging who's on the team with them that's kind of working to get this project over the line. So that's something that I think would be deserving of a future podcast too, as we talk about team creation. And when you are pulling together project work, inside of building your culture, who do you need to have in either their geniuses or their core competencies? So that's something too that you can look forward to from Winning Through Culture for a future episode.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because to your point, Amanda, we've used successfully a lot of different tools to help us both understand ourselves individually and collectively and to better work together, function together as a team. The one thing I love about Working Genius is it's simple to understand, and it's also very simple for me, at least, to see where
the applicability of it.
It's the applicability, but it's the where can you really put people in a room together with certain working geniuses and get something done very quickly, and where can you get yourself in trouble too? I'm thinking of a particular situation, my working genius of invention, which is sometimes solving for problems that don't even need to exist. Having a balance of people that apply working genius. You have a working genius that I do not have. So when we get together to work on something, it helps inform better outcomes, which again, I think helps create a winning culture in the business.
Well, and that really showed up in the project team that rallied around the branding opportunity that we had and the opportunity we have with our culture every single day. And so I think shedding some light on that as a result of how we were able to work through the rebrand and get to the place that we are today, which everyone is extremely passionate about, is really cool. And that is something I think that is a tool that business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders can use to better understand themselves. And even if you are utilizing it not with employees or partners that you currently have, meaning if you don't have a large team, maybe you're a team of 1 or 2, when you bring in vendors, making sure you're understanding that they're filling in the nature of the work in the best way to support what you need. So keeping that in mind, I think it will help illuminate a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And we didn't have the benefit of understanding or using Working Genius when we went through our rebrand project. We just got lucky.
We did. Somehow, and hey, sometimes that works.
Somehow it all worked out and we got the right geniuses in the right places working on the right things and kept the working frustrations where they needed to be out of the mix. So yeah, that was pretty cool to get that. So yeah, so we got a lot of good stuff coming up.
Agreed.
Again, just trying to be very on point as we've talked about before, and creating a winning culture is a daily occurrence. Some days being better than others, some days being great. But the purpose of this podcast is really to give people a roadmap on how to continue to do that on a daily basis, equip them with tools and ideas, and also hopefully some stories that ultimately, as you work through creating a culture in your own organization, you can learn some things that have worked or not worked for other businesses, and also ultimately know that you're not alone in the journey.
Absolutely. I've read this before in a conversation that I had today.
You gave this book to me a while back.
I did, yeah. I've read it before and it was in a conversation today and it came up and it was talking about being an everyday ambassador. Now, the premise of the book is more around the instant gratification technological world that we live in, and the fact that you need to sometimes put your phone down, put your tablet down, whatever's in front of you, and just connect with the person that's across the table. But I was just thinking about, we were talking about being very intentional and how you're building relationships. And in this book, the author has this particular passage and it says, and again, the reference point to the lessons will come to fruition as I read this, but lessons like these I will carry with me for the rest of my life, that even the smallest efforts can lead to change on a much broader scale, that your world can transform when you embrace a new way of thinking. And when you can't rely on words, actions reveal true intentions. And I was reflecting on that in the conversation that you had with a previous guest, David Hoffman, an episode that we just previously released, because he talked a lot about the fact that he is working to build a culture of relationships and not transactions. And so often the technological advances that we all have, that instant gratification tends to lead to that transactional relationship. So again, it just kind of popped in my head when I was thinking through conversation that I was having today. And it really resonated with me about the fact that your real intentions, even when you don't have the words, are revealed through your actions.
Well, I think that's so much of, as we talk about intentionality around culture, I mean, part of that piece that you read is the little things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always the big things. It's not some big splash. It's the little things that really fill in the day-to-day, feeding, care, and cultivation of a culture. And being intentional about the little things and not worrying about, again, some big splash like, oh gosh, we got to do this, or we got to do that.
We have to do more.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother episode.
I know it is, but that's where the conversation was with me today.
Yeah, okay. Well, so it's the little things that matter. It's the intentionality and it's the relationship. And again, culture is ultimately a reflection of how people behave. So to your point, it's not what they say, it's what they do.
Correct.
Or don't do. And I can think of businesses that don't have what I would consider a winning, healthy culture. And it's typically, again, it's not what they say, it's what they do. And they're usually out of alignment. You know, we say, hey, we say this is what we are. And then everybody behaves in a different way. And I think that's one of the things that I cannot impress enough when it comes to creating a winning culture. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And not in the sense of do more and more and more and more.
Right.
You were referencing different topic.
Yes.
But it's how do you show up and what it is you do. And that's the, I'm laughing because somebody commented on one of our recent episodes on social media. And I went back to him and said, yes, that was a glaring glimpse of the obvious. But we talked about the fact in a previous episode, don't talk about culture if you're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Dangerous proposition. Just leave it alone.
Yes.
And
just let it be.
Yeah, let it be. And it is what it is. And move on. Go do something else. Go focus on something else. So that's a great passage from that book, Everyday Ambassador by Kate Otto. And again, just a reminder that it's the little things that add up to make the big difference. It's the intentionality of those little things, not just hoping they happen spontaneously. And then ultimately, it's about people and relationships. And it's creating an environment where people feel heard. You know, there's a lot of studies now. People feel safe.
Say trust and belonging.
Trust and belonging. There's some level of certainty in a very uncertain world. People are given some autonomy to be their best version of themselves in the work that they do in alignment with the business. And that there's fairness in the whole equation so that people know they're being treated fairly. So there's a whole lot that we could unpack from that alone. But I definitely think as it relates to this intentionality, aligning the brand of a business with its culture, there's a lot of wisdom in that statement you read.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, all right. Is that a wrap for today?
I think so.
All right. Well, that was great. Another winning Through Culture episode with Amanda Kramer and Tim Flanagan. We look forward to, again, sharing our next series with you on aligning your brand and your culture.
Awesome.
So thank you for being with us today.
Be well.